You are about to see a remote viewing session where the viewer does not know anything about the target. The viewer did everything totally blind, no knowledge at all about the target. However, you have to know what the target is so that you can watch the remote viewer describe what was gotten in terms of the data. And at the end of the session, I will tell the remote viewer what the actual target was, and that's called the target reveal. So remember, I'm going to tell you the target, but when you watch the remote viewer describe the stuff, the remote viewer will not know what you know until the very end. So the target for this remote viewing session is Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, during the month of December 2023, when he's thinking about the status of the Ukraine war and the possible use of nuclear weapons. Now, this target has two focuses. Actually, they're what we call two concerns. So the remote viewer is going to be finding, locating the target subject, which is Vladimir Putin, and then the remote viewer is going to go into the mind of the target subject and find out what the subject is thinking about the current status of the Ukraine war. And then that's concern one. And then he's going to go into then the remote viewer is going to go into the mind of the target subject again to find out what the target subject is thinking about with respect to the possible use of nuclear weapons. So the status of the Ukraine war, that's concern number one. And the possible use of nuclear weapons in the war, that would be concern number two. All right, now you know the target. The remote viewer does not know the target. Let's see what the remote viewer gets. Okay, Rock, welcome to Jeep News. All right, so just to be clear for the audience, you have no idea what the target is, right?
That's correct. I don't have any idea. It's totally blind.
And you have no idea what the project is about or anything like that, right?
Correct.
Okay. So why don't we start with your Playfair and tell us a little bit about that's your S2 using your methods. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you perceived about the general environment?
Yep. So on these tiles, the first tile I got was seemed like some sort of official procession in an urban area. And I just got detail of the heavy vehicles moving close together through some type of urban area. The next tile was simply a meet and greet of two male figures reaching out and meeting each other. Then we come down to what seems to be a very solid official-like structure of some sort, and didn't really try to localize it. It did seem to have a dome top, but I have no idea what significance, if any, that is. And then on down to the next tile, I have some type of contract-like document that seems important to this session. And below that, I've got an urban area once again on a coastline with a high-speed boat tracking down the shoreline. And then the last tile on S2 was, it seemed, two military aircraft releasing paratroopers in a desert-like or a flat type of environment.
Okay. That's
my S2. Yep.
Okay, so you're getting those sort of elements as being related to this target in some way. Okay.
Perhaps, hopefully.
The boat in the water, it could be either a river or a larger body of water. It's not clear. It's just that basically you're dealing with an urban area.
Right.
Yeah.
And you may recall in the Playfair segment, I had a larger container ship or boat depicted.
Okay, so Rock, let's go to your page 8, where you seem to be focusing in on a target subject. What do you get there?
So I get the target subject, or subject A, seems to have dark hair, medium to large build, male, and from a perceptual awareness perspective, I picked up something notable about his skin and his hands. I also picked up multiple subjects, and they seemed dressed in a formal or semi-formal or business attire.
All right, so it's a business suit type of environment, and subject A is what you're focusing on as the primary target subject. Well, in your next page, page 9, you go into a deep mind probe of that subject. What do you get about that subject's mind?
Yeah, off the top, I picked up a level of brilliance, quick-witted. This individual is a planner, is very political minded, and goals are exceedingly important, very important, as I stated.
Okay. And so it's sort of an important person. And so what do you get when you then focus on, just keep going, you focus then on concern 1, and that's clear to the audience, you have no idea what concern 1 means, but you focused on a deep mind probe of subject A with concern 1. What did you get?
Concern 1 seemed to be of paramount interest and importance, vital to this individual and what surrounds them, their security. They have seemingly limited options and limited time. Target time status of concern number 1, the status of the concern.
Yeah.
And what I picked up was that the status is lagging. It's not coming together at a rate that seems to be needed.
Okay, so the status is whatever was being done isn't coming together quickly.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's go to the next page, or page 11. You're focusing again on the target subject in a more general way. What else did you get?
Got a little more information with this probe. Medium, large build once again, business attire, dark hair, sharp features, something about the mouth. And then what was interesting, and I backed off as I started to pick this up, was some level of discomfort or illness or injury around the mid-frame area of this individual. So something that was affecting them.
I see. So he's got a little bit of a health concern going on. Or maybe a big health concern, but some type of health concern. Okay, let's go to your next page. And again, you went from the general to the more specific. So you did continued of your deep mind probe. So what did you get this time when you sort of dove in again?
Once again, I picked up this wittiness, very clever, calculating, a complex planner, decisive, motivated to the task or goal. But I also picked up some threads of this individual can be ruthless.
You then dove in again to his mind with that focus on concern 1 to see if you'd pick up a little more. What did you get this time with the idea of concern 1?
That concern 1 concerned people, power, and position. And on the power side, wanting to enhance their current position and solidify their power and position in the environment that they're in. I also picked up that there was some level of pain to this individual in taking action. And that they were troubled about this decision or the consequences of these actions. And I picked up, and it may be the sign of the times, but I picked up some disaster or imminent disaster unfolding, a scenario unfolding that this person could perceive.
Okay, so it's the idea of something that you earlier said with lagging seems to be what he might consider a disaster sort of slowly unfolding. What else you get there? You have some statements here.
Yeah, I put a narrative together. Subject A concerned about the people, wanting to maintain or enhance power, but must solidify their position, was worried of action causing more pain, troubled about the decision and the consequence of actions, with like I said, an imminent disaster unfolding. So just sort of a narrative of those words that I detailed above. sentiments that I received.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, look, you continued with that focus on subject A's deep mind probe with concern number 1. And what did you get? I'm looking at your page 14 now.
With regard to concern 1, cannot be sure of outcome. It's very volatile. And we asked the question why in the deep mind probe. And I got a sense that there was a lack of trust with key personnel or influences outside of the sphere of control, and that there was some element of a wild card playing, a coalition, strength and alignment with a commitment to a cause.
Interesting here that I'm thinking is the idea of influences outside of control, the sphere of control, and the lack of trust with key personnel. That's interesting. Okay, so Rock, let's go over to your page 15 where you continued with subject A with the deep mind probe, but this time you shifted to concern 2. Now, just for the audience's sake, Rock doesn't know what concern 2 is, but he shifted the focus to concern 2. What did you get there?
On concern 2, I picked up several elements. One is funding and support of a concern, resources to task, commitment to task, and I picked up health again, which is interesting when we reflect on the previous tiles where I had some health issue or injury or illness associated with this midsection, and then timing with a sense of end game. This cannot go on forever. It must fit a timetable, and the outcome once again seems to be lagging.
Okay, end game, timing, lagging. Okay, what else did you pick up? You asked here, it says on your paper session I'm reading, how far in time is concern number 2? I guess what did you think about that? What time frame are we dealing with?
I was trying to get a better idea of what time horizon we're looking at, and I got a sense that this is all current or near term, and then the horizon is less than a year time frame. And that additionally concern 2 is critical to success of concern 1.
Wow, okay, well, all right. Well, you don't know what those concerns are, so that's going to be interesting. So this thing could go out for as long as a year as far as your data, is that correct?
Correct.
In terms of his thoughts. Okay, I guess we're going to your final page now. What did you do on your final page? You're continuing with that focus on concern 2 in subject A's mind.
Why is concern 2 critical for success? And I picked up, he needs a consensus, needs buy-in. It's the key to changing the landscape, which is a planned operation to ensure future success. Maintaining power and dominance. Gravely concerned, this individual is gravely concerned regarding the outcome, but understands they must persevere. Concern number 2 is a big deal. So I reiterated that on several of these responses. It seems to keep on coming up, the importance of concern 2.
Well, what I'm picking up here is when you have down here in your session, ensure future success, and you defined future success in terms of power and dominance. That's what you were picking up.
Correct.
That's what's written down on your sessions. So that means when you were going into the mind of subject A, he was defining success in terms of power and dominance. Is that correct?
Maintaining or acquiring additional power and dominance. Correct.
Okay. Well, that is quite a session. Do you want to know what the target is?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Okay. All right. Well, the target is Vladimir Putin, and the president of Russia. And it is during the month of December, that's 2023, and we're recording this on December 3rd. So it's this month, Vladimir Putin during the month of 2023, when he is thinking about the status of the Ukraine war and the possible use of nuclear weapons. So, concern number 1 is the state of the Ukraine war. And it was interesting. You picked it up exactly. It was lagging. It wasn't coming together. Time was an issue. It's fascinating how you came up with all that. But then when you went into concern number 2, that is the possible use of nuclear weapons. So the real interesting thing for me about your stuff. Anyway, what's your reaction so far?
I find it pretty interesting, actually. It's not because we did have some other tiles that depicted, there were people around him, the suits, the business attire, speaking in front of a crowd. So it all sort of nets out with the other data that I had in the previous tiles in Playfair and S2, outside of the DMP.
Yeah. You also picked up that he has some health issues, and there's rumors about that in fact he may have some health issues. So I've been hearing rumors about his health issues. He apparently does have a double, and his double shows up from time to time in official engagements. And the rumor has it he has some health issues. So that's interesting. So when you're talking about concern number 2, it's fascinating to me. You picked up that that's a concern that only affects the end game. That's your words. And you said it cannot go on forever. It must fit a timetable, meaning the war just can't go on. I mean, these are your words. The war can't go on forever. It's lagging. And according to this, he seems to have a time frame of about a year. He's willing to wait about a year, apparently. Okay, for concern number 2. And that's why it was interesting to me when you wrote down concern number 2 is to ensure future success, which is power and dominance. Vladimir Putin he came out of the former Soviet Union, and it's widely suggested that he wants to recreate the former Soviet Union, that sort of sphere of influence. And that was gotten through power and dominance. Those are perfect words for it. And he's defining future success in terms of that. I thought that was brilliant to get that window in time.
Yeah, it seems like there was some real relevant data received in there. I'm pretty, after every session, we're pretty much lackluster. Like, oh man, I don't know what I got. It's all trash. But when the reveal comes up, and I start putting those pieces together to what has been harmonized in the news and the events as of late, it's actually pretty cool. Very interesting.
Now
thank you.
The audience should know that perceptions done with remote viewing are not filtered by the conscious mind. So the conscious mind often has tremendous doubts about it. That's one of the ways we know that the session's really good, if the person feels really doubtful about it. So when Rock is reporting that, he felt like it must be trash or whatever, that's a great sign. That means the data are great. That means the data are really good. If a remote viewer comes in and says, I knocked this one out of the ballpark, I got it right, I know this is right, then we know that the conscious mind got involved and the data are probably crap. But when they come in really doubtful, we're really happy.
And that's walking the razor's edge when you're doing the remote viewing to keep your consciousness and your scenario building outside of the glimpses and the senses that you get of either words or pictures. You just lay it out, let somebody else analyze it. And that's what I really enjoy, that aspect of this.
Yeah. Well, you got the verifiables totally correct. He was a male. You got your descriptions of him correct, and especially the clothing that he wears and so on, and the people around him are all with formal attire. He's always got people with formal attire around him. So And then the thoughts really match with what we know from the basic news. So the interesting thing from my perspective is that the nuclear option doesn't seem to be something he's thinking about now, like to use in December. It's something that he considers possible in an end game situation if it looks like the war's spinning out of control. And it looks like he's willing to wait a year. These are interesting data, Rock. I'm absolutely positive the intelligence community, both on the United States and Russian side, are going to be watching your session.
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope
Let's
they decide not to go the nuclear route. That would be the mother of all disasters. And
Exactly.
anyway, Rock, I want to thank you so much. This is great, and
My pleasure.
this is where we bring you Rock Arkie, giving you the deep news, and it's great.